Somewhere in the Amazon right now, there's a leaf strong enough to hold a child, a flower that smells like a rotting corpse on purpose, and a vine that can paralyze an animal in seconds. These aren't rumors from an old explorer's journal, they're real living plants, and every one of them exists in only one place on the planet, the Amazon rainforest. Scientists believe thousands more like them are still waiting to be discovered. Today we're covering 10 of the strangest, rarest, and most important ones. Let's get into it. Plant 1. The giant Amazon water lily. We're starting with a plant that genuinely looks like it was designed by an engineer rather than grown by nature. The Victoria amazonica produces circular lily pads that can reach up to 3 meters, nearly 10 feet in diameter, making them the largest floating leaves of any plant on Earth. The underside of each pad is lined with a lattice of thick, ribbed veins that radiate outward and cross each other like a spider's web. And this structure is so strong that a fully grown pad can support the weight of a small child standing on it, as long as the weight is evenly distributed. This design wasn't lost on humans. In the 1800s, when the plant was first brought to Europe and put on display, the botanist and architect Joseph Paxton studied the ribbing pattern on the underside of the leaves and used the same principle to design the structural framework of the Crystal Palace, the massive glass exhibition hall built in London in 1851. In other words, a rainforest plant helped inspire one of the most famous buildings of the Victorian era. The flower itself is just as remarkable as the leaf. It blooms for only 2 nights. On the first night, it opens pure white and releases a strong, sweet, pineapple-like scent designed to lure and scare beetles. Once a beetle crawls inside, the flower actually closes around it, trapping it overnight while the flower's temperature rises several degrees above the surrounding air, a rare trait called thermogenesis that helps spread the fragrance further and reward the trapped beetle with warmth and food. By the second night, the flower has been pollinated. Its color shifts to a deep pink or magenta. It reopens, releases the beetle covered in pollen, and then sinks beneath the water to develop its seeds. It only grows naturally in the slow-moving Blackwater rivers, oxbow lakes, and flooded backwaters of the Amazon basin, where the still water and nutrient-rich sediment give it exactly the conditions it needs. Plant 2. The Cannonball Tree. Picture walking through the rainforest and seeing what genuinely look like cannonballs hanging directly from a tree trunk. That's not a special effect. It's exactly what the cannonball tree produces. Unlike most fruit trees, this one grows its large, round, woody fruits directly out of thick stalks along the trunk itself, a growth pattern botanists call cauliflory. Each fruit can grow to the size of a bowling ball and weigh several kilograms, and when they eventually fall and crack open, they release a strong, somewhat unpleasant odor along with a pulpy interior packed with hundreds of seeds. The flowers are arguably even stranger than the fruit. They grow on long, snake-like stalks that spiral out from the trunk, and each blossom has a bizarre 2-part structure, an outer ring of waxy pink, red, and yellow petals, and an inner hood-like structure covered in hundreds of tiny stamens that curls over like a small hood or crown. Up close, the flowers smell sweet and almost floral, but from a distance, many people describe the scent as musky or faintly rotten, a dual-purpose smell that seems to attract a wide range of pollinators, from bees to bats. In parts of the Amazon, different components of the tree have long been used in traditional remedies for skin conditions and minor infections, though the pulp of the fruit itself has an odor strong enough that most indigenous communities don't eat it directly. What makes it so rare is its very specific habitat requirement. It needs consistently warm, humid, undisturbed lowland rainforest, which is exactly why you won't find true wild specimens growing naturally outside the Amazon and a few closely related tropical zones. Plant 3. The Ayahuasca Vine. Few plants carry as much cultural and spiritual weight as this one. The Ayahuasca vine is a thick, woody liana that climbs high into the rainforest canopy, and for possibly thousands of years, Indigenous communities across the Amazon basin have prepared it in a ceremonial brew, typically combined with the leaves of another plant, to produce an intense altered state of consciousness used in healing ceremonies, spiritual guidance, and rites of passage. What makes the vine itself so unique is its chemistry. It naturally contains compounds that, on their own, don't produce strong visionary effects, but when combined with the right companion plant in the brew, they inhibit a specific enzyme in the human gut long enough for the other plant's active compounds to be absorbed and take effect. Indigenous shamans figured out this precise chemical pairing long before Western science understood enzymes at all, through generations of careful, and clearly quite serious, trial and observation. In recent years, researchers have started studying compounds from the vine for their potential role in supporting mental health, though this research is still ongoing, and the plant is not currently an approved treatment. What's not up for debate is the vine's ecological and cultural rarity. It depends on a very specific rainforest microclimate to thrive, and its traditional preparation is deeply tied to Amazonian indigenous knowledge systems that exist nowhere else on the planet. Plant 4, the Curari Vine. This one sounds like something out of a spy thriller, but it's very real. The Curari vine is a woody, climbing liana found deep in the Amazon rainforest, and indigenous hunters have used extracts from its bark and stem for generations to coat the tips of blow darts and arrows. When a dart tipped with curari strikes an animal, the compound rapidly blocks signals between nerves and muscles, causing swift paralysis, an effect hunters relied on to bring down prey high in the forest canopy without a struggle. What's fascinating is that the very same paralyzing property that made curari a hunting tool eventually made it valuable to modern medicine. In the 20th century, researchers isolated the active compound, tubocurarine, and used it as the basis for developing safer, more controllable muscle relaxants that are still used today during surgery to keep patients still under anesthesia. A plant developed by indigenous hunters over centuries directly shaped a tool now used in operating rooms worldwide. The vine itself is notoriously difficult to identify correctly, since its potency varies significantly between individual plants and even between different parts of the same plant, which is part of why traditional preparation knowledge, closely guarded and passed down within specific communities, remains so valuable and irreplaceable. Plant 5, the monkey brush vine. High in the rainforest canopy, where sunlight is scarce and competition for pollinators is fierce, the monkey brush vine solves both problems with color. This climbing vine produces dense clusters of small flowers in fiery orange and red tones, with long, thin stamens that give each cluster the appearance of a paintbrush dipped in flame, which is exactly where its common name comes from. Because it grows as a canopy-climbing liana rather than rooting in open, sunny ground, the vine has to compete for light by wrapping around and scaling much larger host trees, sometimes reaching heights of over 20 meters. Its bright coloring isn't just decorative. It's a highly effective signal for hummingbirds, which have excellent color vision tuned toward red and orange wavelengths, and are drawn to the vine's nectar almost exclusively. Over time, this has created a tight evolutionary partnership. Certain hummingbird species time their feeding routes around the vine's bloom cycle, and in return, the vine relies almost entirely on those same birds for pollination. This kind of narrow, specialized relationship is part of why the plant can't simply be transplanted elsewhere and thrive. Without its specific pollinators and canopy structure, the entire system it depends on falls apart, which is a big part of why it remains confined to Amazonian forest. Plant 6, the Brazil nut tree. You've almost certainly eaten the seeds of this tree, but very few people outside the Amazon have ever actually seen one growing. Brazil nut trees are giants, capable of living for 500 years or more, and towering up to 50 meters tall, rising well above the surrounding canopy into what's called the emergent layer of the rainforest. The tree's reproductive strategy is where things get genuinely fascinating. Its large, woody seed pods are incredibly tough enough that almost no animal can crack them open except one. The agouti, a large rodent with teeth strong enough to gnaw through the shell. Agoutis gather the seeds, eat some immediately, and bury the rest to save for later, exactly like a squirrel burying acorns. But agoutis don't remember every single burial spot, and the seeds they forget become new Brazil nut trees. In other words, this tree's entire ability to reproduce depends almost entirely on the memory lapses of one specific rodent species. Pollination is just as specific. The tree's flowers have a tightly coiled hood-like structure that only certain large, strong bees, primarily orchid bees, have the strength to pry open. Because Brazil nut trees depend on this precise combination of a specific bee for pollination and a specific rodent for seed dispersal, they essentially cannot be successfully grown on plantations. Nearly all commercial Brazil nuts are still gathered from wild trees deep in the Amazon, making this one of the very few major food crops that has resisted large-scale domestication. Plant 7, Cat's Claw. Named for the small, curved, hook-shaped thorns that grow along its woody stems, this climbing vine uses those claws to latch onto the bark of surrounding rainforest trees and pull itself upward, sometimes climbing more than 30 meters in its relentless search for sunlight above the dense canopy. For generations, indigenous communities across the Peruvian and Brazilian Amazon have used preparations made from the plant's bark and root in traditional medicine, most commonly associated with supporting the body's immune response and general wellness. Interest from outside the region grew significantly in the 20th century, and the plant's compounds, including a group of substances called oxindole alkaloids, have since become the subject of ongoing scientific research, though, as with many traditional remedies, more study is still needed before firm medical conclusions can be drawn. Because of its growing popularity, wild cat's claw has faced real harvesting pressure in parts of the Amazon, with some regions now regulating how much bark can be sustainably stripped from a single vine, so the plant can recover and continue climbing. Plant 8, Heliconia rostrata. Few plants look quite as deliberately engineered as this one. Commonly nicknamed the lobster claw for its bright red, downward-curving flower bracts tipped in yellow and green, Heliconia rostrata produces long, hanging flower clusters that almost look like something built for a tropical theme park rather than grown in the wild. That striking shape isn't random. It's a precise fit for the curved bill of hermit hummingbirds, which have co-evolved alongside the plant to reach the nectar hidden deep inside each bract. The bracts themselves aren't actually the flower. They're modified leaves that curve around and protect the true, much smaller flowers tucked safely inside, shielding them from rain and from insects that would rather steal nectar than pollinate. The plant thrives specifically in the warm, humid, high rainfall understory of the Amazon, often along riverbanks and forest edges where enough light filters through for it to flower successfully. Its dependence on a very narrow band of hummingbird species for pollination, combined with its need for consistent tropical humidity, is a big part of why it has never naturally established itself outside its home range. Plant 9, the Copaiba Tree. Towering over the surrounding forest, the Copaiba tree holds a secret inside its trunk, a reservoir of thick, aromatic resin known as copaiba oil. For generations, indigenous communities have tapped these trees using a method remarkably similar to tapping a maple tree for syrup, drilling a small hole into the trunk and collecting the oil that slowly seeps out. What makes this tree especially valuable is that, unlike many resin-producing or timber trees, tapping it doesn't kill it or even seriously harm it. A single healthy copaiba tree can be tapped repeatedly over the course of decades, making it one of the more sustainable resources the rainforest has to offer, as long as harvesters give the tree enough time to recover between tappings. The oil itself has traditionally been applied to soothe skin irritation and support wound healing, and it has since drawn interest from the cosmetics and natural remedy industries worldwide. But the tree only produces this particular resin in meaningful quantities under the specific soil and climate conditions found in old-growth Amazon rainforest, which is part of why efforts to cultivate it commercially outside the region have had limited success. Plant 10. Aristolochia gigantea. We're closing with arguably the strangest-looking, strangest-smelling plant on this entire list. Aristolochia gigantea produces one of the largest, most unusual flowers found anywhere in the rainforest. A massive, curling, trumpet-shaped bloom mottled in deep maroon, cream, and purple, with a pattern that looks almost like it was hand-painted to resemble decaying flesh. That resemblance is entirely intentional from the plant's perspective. The flower releases a strong odor that mimics the smell of rotting meat, specifically to attract carrion flies, which normally lay their eggs in decaying animal matter. Fooled by the scent, the flies fly into the flower's curved throat, become temporarily trapped by a ring of downward-pointing hairs, and while stuck inside, they pick up pollen. After a period of time, the hairs wilt, releasing the fly to carry that pollen to the next unsuspecting flower. This entire strategy, smelling like death to trick flies into working for free, is a form of deceptive pollination, and it's remarkably effective specifically because it exploits an instinct that carrion flies can't ignore. The plant needs the exact combination of warm, humid rainforest air and a healthy population of carrion flies to make this strategy work, conditions that exist reliably in very few places outside the Amazon basin. From a lily pad strong enough to hold a child to a flower that smells like death to survive, these 10 plants are proof that the Amazon isn't just a forest. It's the largest untested pharmacy, laboratory, and gallery on Earth, and scientists believe thousands of species there still haven't even been named. Every acre lost is a story we might never get to hear. If this opened your eyes, hit subscribe because next time, we're diving into the ocean's deepest trench to find life just as strange as this.